welcome to Bleep Your Tears, where we're going to rank some stuff. Today, Thomas the Tank Engine. Because you know, those 41 views we've gotten on the last Thomas tier list, we wanted to repeat that.
We wanted to repeat the success. I forgot we did a Thomas tier already.
I mean, it was our first tier list.
It was the first one.
Was that the first one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
You can see my amazing thumbnail I made.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that was before I started making the thumbnails. Because I don't mean to offend.
Oh, my thumbnails are awful.
But I wasn't intending to make the thumbnails, and then I saw Sean's graphic design as my passion-ass thumbnails. Fucking Microsoft Paint bullshit. And I'm like, Sean, I can make the thumbnails. And he's like, oh, okay, cool, thanks, buddy.
Of the 3 thumbnails I made, the Thomas is the best.
No,
it's not good.
It's the Bond one.
Oh, you think the Bond one with it? Okay, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. The Bond one is actually pretty good. All right, that aside, we're going to rank the first
20 episodes of Season 1 of Thomas the Tank Engine.
The Genesis.
As we celebrate Thomas's anniversary here. Thomas has a big birthday.
Yep.
Yay.
Turning 40, the series is turning 40 years old.
Oh, God, Thomas is a middle-aged man now.
Yep.
I mean, if you're going by the original books, he's a senior because he's like 80.
He's going to be complaining about the price of coal.
It is expensive.
But yeah, we're gonna put these in tier lists. Our categories we have to rank them into. We have really useful engine at the top because, of course, that's the best honor you can receive.
Yeah. It goes Presidential Medal of Honor. Really useful engine.
Exactly. There is not a better compliment you can receive in life than being really useful engine.
Yes.
Shiny coat of paint for our second tier. Bust my buffers for the third tier, and confusion and delay for the bottom tier.
Mm-hmm.
Which we did 4 because I'll be honest, I don't think any of these are bad. But
no,
there will be certain rankings.
They're good boys. Our first one here. Thomas gets tricked.
Thomas gets tricked, or Thomas and Gordon. This is the episode where Thomas is being a little bitch boy to Gordon, and Gordon decides to play a prank on him.
This is where we kind of introduce the main characteristic of Thomas. He's kind of a little shit sometimes.
Wake up, lazy bones. Do some hard work for a change. You can't catch me. And off he ran, laughing.
And
it's just a prank.
The thing that is great about this first season is all the characters, you see their kind of one-dimensional side, but then as each episode they grow and grow and grow out, and they use that side to teach lessons both to the engines and the audience as well. And this one is, hey, maybe don't be a dick to your friend.
I think that,
but also there's a element of what you do to your friends might come back to you.
Yeah, what goes around comes around. It's kind of an element that I think kind of got lost from Thomas as like it went, like Thomas became more of like a kind of a wide-eyed child.
Mm-hmm.
And he lost his
started becoming a little more one-dimensional, like a little more of just a generic kids character. He still has that flair every now and then, like sort of Legend of the Lost Treasure does it pretty well, but
it's a lot less of the like teenage goofiness, like the young teenage, and more like that younger kid silliness.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a different thing. As honestly, especially as we went into the CG era, they were aiming even younger than the already lower target audience at times, but. I think it's a solid opening to the show, a solid opening to the season. I would put it in shiny coat of paint.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
It's a very solid introduction to Thomas. It gives us a lot about what we're doing. It gives us Gordon as the quote-unquote antagonist initially. But then, by the end of it, the respect. The thing about this as we go through is like these engines gain respect from each other by how they do things and how they handle their issues.
Mm-hmm.
Well, our second episode, Edward's Night Out.
Edward helps
out.
Edward helps out.
Sorry, I can read. I swear.
Also known as Edward and Gordon in the UK. This is the episode where now it's Gordon's turn to be a little bitch boy. And Edward, the old-ass man that he is, is trying to help him.
Edward, the old ass 17-year-old.
I'm gonna help you. Edward, you're 15.
But-
I'm an old man.
Also, I loved this episode.
This is a very good.
This episode was so good. Part of that is being an Edward fan. That is definitely one of those. It's like I love Edward,
This
also
introduced our little boxy boy.
I like that the first episode introduced Thomas kind of goofing on Gordon, and then the next episode is Gordon struggling and having his issues, and someone immediately comes in to help him.
Kind of shows that like all the engines have their issues.
Mhm.
They're not all. There is no one true God train in this show.
But this is the first one I think goes in really useful engine. I love this
Yeah, I
episode.
agree. This is a very good episode.
This is just it's cool that after the first episode you're like, oh, this is really interesting. And the second episode you're like, oh, I'm gonna make my entire life about this.
What kind of train do you think God is?
Well, we saw in Magic Grove. It's Lady.
Oh
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
right. You're right. Anyways, continue.
That's that scene in Magic Railroad where they're all sitting there and like, do you remember God? But come out, Henry.
Episode 3.
I
did not really. Yeah, go ahead.
It's the sad story of Henry.
I did not realize this episode was this early in the damn show.
Because y'all know what episode this is. It's the Henry gets locked up in the tunnel one.
Such an iconic image of Henry in the tunnel.
It is. It's an iconic image. It is the most famous story from
Mhm.
Thomas the Tank Engine.
Partly from the memes, partly
From the memes,
Mostly from the memes.
partly from those dumbass clickbait articles, but also it is just a good story of Henry's vanity.
Yeah. The things that I really love about this episode is it's not that Henry is some horrible engine or anything in this. He's just super vain and is like, I don't want my paint to get messed up. And the great thing is like Sir Topham Hatt, while it is extreme what he does, bricking him up in there is very extreme, but also it's like, hey, guess what? You know how bad your paint's going to be now?
Yeah.
You're actually going to learn this lesson here, and it's the watching all his friends go by just because he was like worried about his appearance.
Yeah, because
Don't we know people in real life that are like this?
Sir Topham Hatt is the equivalent of a very stern father figure,
Mhm.
not an abusive one, just a stern one.
He has a very, very strict militaristic rule kind of a lot of
It's
ways.
almost like he's running a business.
Mhm.
Is this the first time we see Sir Topham Hatt is in this episode?
Yes. He's also one of the
Yeah.
highlights because it's like my doctor forbid me to push.
Mhm.
Is this also then we also get the scene where they like stack up little blocks to get him up to?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's
Get him up
also
to
the great
Henry's
image of the quick as they're putting building the bricks up that you have the people moving along.
Yeah.
Kind of like almost stop-go motion type thing they did with those.
Mhm.
Really cool. This is one of the we'd seen some humans early on in this universe, but this is the first time we've seen the human characters in this, and I really like the way they're introduced. It's iconic. This episode is one of the best, just because of what it has to say, and also just what it is.
I also like the idea of this episode ends basically on a cliffhanger of Henry being bricked up in the tunnel. Like that's how it ends in
Mhm.
this episode, and they show like it continues with the next episode when we'll get to that of how he gets out. But I like the idea of like a kid watching that episode. The episode ends, they somehow miss the next episode and skip it, and they're like, "But is Henry still in the tunnel?"
Or if you
What
know,
happened?
at the time, if you didn't watch it on TV, you maybe watched it on the VHSs as they were coming out, and they had the 2 episodes per VHS usually. Maybe 4 episodes. No, I think it was 2 episodes. But anyway, not important right now on that. But like, imagine like you had to stop it for like dinner, and you don't know what happened until it.
Throughout all of dinner, you're like, is Henry okay?
I'm
What
so
happened
worried.
to Henry?
I think this goes in the top tier. I think this is really useful engine. Where
I put it top. at very
would you
top.
put it ahead of
I'd put it ahead.
Edward?
I'd put it ahead, and I think I'd keep it there.
I disagree, but we'll.
Where would you put it below Edward, Thomas?
No, I mean keeping it.
Oh yeah, I disagree on that as well. Yeah. There's some that I'm gonna talk about, but I think this is the first time. The other ones were kind of like silly little comeuppance sort of things. This is a true this is a lesson you have to learn. That you how to do things. Good for Henry. Well, good for the audience. It's actually quite a while when we get to the next episode. Time has passed.
That is true. Like his whole coat is gone.
It's Henry to the rescue / Edward, Gordon, and Henry.
And this is the things that are great about this episode. Once again, Gordon's blusterousness kind of leads to Gordon's downfall again.
Gordon goes too fast, bursts the safety valve, and which is basically the engine equivalent of pulling an Achilles tendon.
Yeah, or like hurting. I don't think like pulling an Achilles, but like maybe hurting a hamstring.
Like a Charlie horse.
Yeah, something like that.
I think a little more serious than the Charlie horse.
A little more serious. So pulling a hammy.
Yeah, like either a hammy or maybe like you sprained an ankle or something that could be kind of serious, especially to do work, but isn't necessarily detrimental to your existence.
Yeah. So and Edward can't.
So going into the doctor's office. Terrible news. This is very detrimental to your existence. Very specific language used, Doctor.
Sprained my ankle. Euthanasia.
Hey Doc, my finger kind of hurts. I think I broke a nail. Well, anyway, Edward can't pull the train because even though he's bigger than Thomas, he's not as big as the other engines. So Sir Topham goes up to Henry and he's like, "Okay, are you done being a bitch?" "Yes, sir, I'm done being a bitch."
It really is. He's like, "Have you learned your lessons?" He's like, "Oh yes,
yes. Get me out of here."
You know how much worse the coat of paint and my how I look for being stuck in here compared to being out in the glorious outside. It is a very good payoff to it. I think my biggest complaint of it, and I know it's a kids show, all of it is that Henry gets out the very next episode.
Oh, you think he should have stayed in
for a few more episodes? A lot of time passes in the show, so I understand. For it is a good lesson for him to learn. But for us, an audience, especially with the 2 episodes back to back, Henry's in there for very short time.
He's in there for 5 minutes.
So, for the audience, I feel like it should have been a little bit longer. But also, I like that Edward is again right on the job. Edward is there. I don't think this episode is as good as the first part.
I don't agree. I can't talk. I agree.
It's a lower end in a lot of ways. It also everything resolved. Everything is quick in Thomas in general, but this feels kind of exceptionally quick and wrapping up.
When you said he's in there for 5 minutes, reminded me of that SpongeBob episode where they're like, "But we stole a balloon." Yeah, on free balloon day.
Honestly, I probably put this one in shiny coat of paint.
I was gonna say below, right, but next to Come Out Henry, right behind it. That's what I was gonna say.
I was gonna say shiny coat of paint, but it's.
If it goes in shiny coat, top of shiny coat.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that as well.
I think some of the stuff on it, I do really like the introduction of Thomas in that first episode, but we're going to get a lot of Thomas's impishness later on, so I'm okay with knocking that one down a bit because it's not even a lot of his best goofs.
Right.
What a goof.
Hey, a big day for Thomas.
Big day for Thomas.
This is Thomas decides he's going to pull a train. He wants to pull a train. Henry gets sick, so he's like, "Yep, I'm going to pull this train." And he pulls the train, except he doesn't because he leaves him behind. And the poor conductor has to sprint his ass there.
There's, the sprint on it, the amount of people that are, he's like, "Look at my car." Oh, don't look at other people. I have to go. Thomas is so full of himself. But I think the great thing about this episode is that because he had to do the track twice, once, tire himself out by himself and then have to pull the cars, he really learns the lesson here. Mm-hmm. Both through embarrassment, but also through he's tired, but also he kind of gets respect because of this.
Yeah, what makes it is that the people are bitching and moaning, which I would too. When Thomas comes back and he has such a sad expression, the people are like, "Oh, now I feel bad."
They were telling the Fat Controller what a bad railway it was. But when Thomas came back, they saw how sad he was and couldn't be cross.
Can you get us to it on time? Imagine like your plane has been delayed, and finally you get there and you're like, oh, I'm so mad, I'm gonna be late. Oh, the plane has a face on. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
And the plane's safe.
Thomas comes back to the area and he pulls out a ukulele.
This one is just really enjoyable. I don't know if it's necessarily as good as some of the other ones, but it is just a really enjoyable episode.
I think it's the weakest so far, if only because, speaking in train logic, how the hell did he not know he was coupled up?
Mm-hmm.
But it's hilarious because the conductor does have to sprint the whole way there. Doesn't this one fucking funny?
Doesn't this one also have the bit where like Thomas is going without his trains? He's like, "Wow, I'm going a lot faster than I thought."
Yeah.
He's like, "Man, these coaches are really light."
It also, I think, while he gains respect by him to do it, and a lot like some of the lesson is also one of the weaker lessons at this point that we've learned.
Don't be stupid.
Yeah, it's like, hey, pay attention, kids, pay attention to your surroundings. I don't think I'd go as low as in like one of the bottom two tiers, so I probably put it at the end of Shiny Coat of Paint.
I agree. That's what I was going to say.
But I mean, I would consider Top of Bust My Buffers, but I think it is the weakest so far. But it is also cute. Trouble for Thomas.
Trouble for Thomas / Thomas and the Trucks, which is...
This is where we introduce the troublesome trucks.
Yep, the troublesome trucks are introduced.
With their stuck-on eyes.
Yeah, they didn't get faces. They didn't get faces until like season 2.
Yep.
Thomas and Edward trade jobs because Thomas is just sick of his work.
Mm-hmm.
Then it turns out the troublesome trucks are, what a shock, troublesome.
You don't
Yeah, it's almost like their namesake. I like that this one, that like we continue to see that Edward just does what he needs to do.
Yes.
Edward, especially in these early episodes, is just the MVP always. Like, hey, you need something cool, I'm doing that. And right now he spends his time with the troublesome trucks. And Thomas really wants to, he's like, that's easy. You can't do what I do. Shocker, it was not easy.
Oh, no.
But as I said, I think this is a good one for every episode with Thomas, really up through this point, is all about humbling. Mm-hmm. And this is at this point, we've kind of got like, okay, don't pick on someone so much bigger than you that can do things, you're going to get it back. Hey, maybe, don't get so cocky, you'll forget your job. Hey, maybe don't, pick on the troublesome trucks.
Yeah, at this point, we're at like, this is the 6th episode, right? Mm-hmm. And we're kind of seeing a bit of a pattern here. It's like Thomas is like, I can do this thing, and someone's like, okay, we'll let you do this thing, and like Thomas is like, oh, I'm gonna do this thing. I'm doing really good at this thing. Oh crap, I fucked up doing this thing. I'll learn to do the thing better next time.
Do the things.
Yeah. And I think by this episode, it's like all right, it's kind of getting a little old.
A little bit. I like the troublesome trucks. I think they're utilized better later on.
Yeah.
I do like Thomas a lot. And this, I think they're finding their footing with how they want to utilize Thomas, and we're going to get real good Thomas here later in the season. Mm-hmm. But I think at this point, they're still just like, he make fun of people, and without necessarily learning like the really great lessons that we saw with Henry.
Right. And I think because of I'd put it top of Buffers. Personally, I think.
You think you'd put it above Big Day for Thomas?
No, Buffers. I said
top of Buffers.
So it'd be in the.
Yeah. So okay, but okay. Oh, okay. But you think it would be below a Big Day of Thomas?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. You agree? Okay.
I will take it. I have no problem. I these two are very similar, so I'm completely fine with how we have those. Thomas saves the day, so everything comes around here.
Yep, this is the conclusion of Thomas's arc.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas saves the day / Thomas and the breakdown train. James finally arrives in his debut episode, he wrecks like a motherfucker.
He is an asshole.
Is this the first big crash we get?
Yes and no. It's a big crash, but it's not shown. Mm-hmm. We just see the aftermath.
Oh, that's right. We don't see this crash.
This is also a good thing for this episode is it's introducing James as we're setting up that this is about to be the James arc.
Yeah.
Which is where the show gets good in the James arc.
Yeah, you're gonna if you stick it out for the first 7 5-minute episodes, you'll get to the good part.
If you stick it out for the first 30 minutes.
You just turned Thomas into an anime.
But this is where Thomas. Oh, the payoff is really good with Thomas in this one.
The payoff is really good because we get two MVPs,
Mhm.
Annie and Clarabelle.
Yeah, Thomas gets Annie and Clarabelle, he gets his own branch line, and most importantly, his journey is kind of not done because he still has a lot to learn. But he's shown that he's grown up.
He has as the biggest message through Thomas and Friends is responsibility. That's the main message. That's why really useful engine is said. You're responsible for your actions, you're responsible for your work, you're responsible for how you handle your relationships. And these first 7 episodes really are Thomas learning that big lesson throughout it. Like, hey, you can be goofy, you can be silly. Like, we all like to have fun. We all like to, sit around and shoot the shit. We'll tell stories later, but you still have to be responsible. And him learning that when he kind of sees the irresponsibility of James and learning it and stepping up and getting gifted more responsibility because of that. This is a good episode.
Yes. And I think, I would, and because of all this, I think I'd put it in between the two at the top.
I'd put it at the very top.
Yeah, this is my of the first 7 of the Thomas arc. This is the best episode in my opinion. This is maybe it's just because it's the payoff, maybe all of that, but I also the crash. We get the crane. First time I've seen the crane, which was one of my favorite toys growing up. Like, this is my favorite, and I think Thomas and I have outvoted you.
I know when I've been beat. I put up a fight.
I know, all these episodes, lessons are learned. So when we move on to James learns a lesson, I know you are shocked.
James learns a lesson / James and the coaches, where James is my personal favorite Thomas character, and it's because of episodes like this where we reveal under that hoity-toity exterior he's a neurotic wreck.
Yep.
He gets Sir Topham Hatt's hat soggy. And he immediately thinks, oh, he's gonna kill me.
Yep. There is this element of James is older than Thomas and is the slightly older kid, but also still has not felt like he's gained the respect of his peers or his superiors. And I think there is an element of them, in the theme of the whole show at this point. Thomas has just gotten respect, and so I think it makes James even more of a wreck. As Thomas has gained respect, this kid that's younger than him, and he feels like he hasn't gotten there because he just wrecked. And then this whole episode is just James being like, oh no! Yeah. Oh
no!
Yep. And then he bumps the coaches so hard that one of the brake lines busts. It has to be tied up with bootlaces, which leads to a lot of people calling him bootlace.
Oh, it's so funny.
It is.
Oh, it's so funny. This is kind of the point where we realized, oh shit, Thomas the Tank Engine is just a workplace comedy for kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a lot of it is like, James is not yet feeling that respect, so he doesn't like being called names among his friends that are just they're goofing with him. They're not there's nothing malicious about.
Yeah, they're just busting his chops.
But he doesn't like it.
So this is a great episode. I think I'd put it behind the Henry one at the top there.
In Really Useful Engine?
Yeah.
That's fair. I'm okay with putting it up that high. I probably would have it more in the Shiny Coat of Paint range because I think we're going to get to the really good James episodes.
Yeah, I would agree, but
that's kind of where I'd put it in. I'd be fine. Like I was kind of thinking in one of these 2 slots. Because I think, again, while a lot of this episode is fun, not a lot really happens besides kind of the goofiness, which is fine. This is a goofy kid show.
You get the bootlace moment, though.
That's
true.
The
bootlace moment. Come on, Sean, the bootlace moment.
All right.
You want to bump it up for the bootlace moment.
There we go.
Come on, Sean, the bootlace moment.
I bumped it up from here to here.
Come on, Sean, the bootlace moment.
Foolish freight cars.
Bootlace. Get it? Bootlace. Foolish freight cars / troublesome trucks, where James is confined to the shed because he was a little bit of a pissant last episode.
Mm-hmm.
But he gets out to prove his worth with the troublesome trucks, and like Thomas before him, he's a little bit of a shithead to him.
And like any engine, who doesn't respect the troublesome trucks and what they can do, the troublesome trucks strike back.
You'd think with a name like that, you'd understand what you're getting yourself into, but apparently not.
I think there is something really cool about the early Thomas stuff that is almost all how little respect the engines have for their cars, which is paid off with the Thomas episode, because when he learns a lot more respect of everything around him, he is given his own cars.
Yeah.
There is a little bit of a problem I have with this episode. It's just the Thomas episode, but with James this time.
Not a lot really happens, and we had this one lower as well, and I think the James one is kind of in the same spot.
Yeah,
it's fine. It's James. We like it. We like when they go, well, it's different this time because he red. We had blue last time. This time red.
And he has a tander.
And then later on, we're gonna get, but he's green.
later on, but he diesel.
But he brown.
I want to do a TikTok that's trending. It's like Thomas, green Thomas, red Thomas, big Thomas,
even bigger Thomas,
big green Thomas. Helicopter Thomas.
Do we think it is better than the Thomas episode or the
helicopter Thomas?
Bus Thomas? Double-decker bus Thomas.
Tractor Thomas. Tractor Thomas.
Do we think it is better than the Thomas episode, or behind or ahead of it?
I think behind.
Yeah, I'd say behind.
Just because it's a rehash.
It's a rehash, so yeah, the first one.
Second verse.
But don't worry, a proud day for James.
Proud day for James / James and the Express. I know there's one I missed the UK title on, and it's going to piss me off, but I'll edit it in.
We'll throw it in there in editing, yeah.
One day.
Gordon's once again kind of a shitheel. He gets lost, so James has to pull the Express. That's basically it, but it is kind of James's this is your last chance moment. 3 strikes, you're out. This is James' third strike.
And I like that it isn't like
time is up to bat, rather.
Yeah, it's also like it with James. It's each episodes are not really James succeeding. It's just failure, and it's like, okay, you really can't fail here. Where are we going to put you? You struggled with trucks. You struggled here. You got bootlace.
Yeah, I
get bootlace. Yeah, send this to 12 of your friends to totally bootlace.
It shows how different James and Thomas are. Where Thomas, he screwed up, but he gave a shit. But at the end, he wasn't like a wreck about it. James is like, I'm gonna get scrapped. I'm gonna get killed.
It's all part of it is how much he is older. He has experienced some of life. He has seen some of these things, and then he's watching younger people pass him, and he's like, oh, I really am not useful. There's a lot of self-doubt in him, and I think that's why I think I like James so much as a character, especially these early on, is because I especially as a 13, 14-year-old, felt that a lot. So I've felt that a lot as an adult too. So Thomas, how dare you?
But I personally would have this pretty high.
I would too. I really like. If you've noticed, kind of the theme of our high episodes, there a lot of them are when we get the payoff. Because I do think Thomas is really good when you get the payoff of a lot of these characters.
I would put it top tier behind Sad Story of Henry.
Yeah, I think I was thinking that. I think I would have because again, the Edward and Gordon episode is really good and cute, but also it is kind of an empty comparatively. I would put it right here.
Yeah, that's a good spot.
I think it's just a solid spot for it. All right. Thomas and the Conductor.
/ Thomas and the Guard. This one's not that different. Thomas forgets his guard. Again, he forgot his conductor last time. This time he forgets the guard. It could be seen as another repeat episode, but it's made up for because Annie and Clarabelle are there, and they're just constantly like, "Go back, Thomas."
And Thomas is like, "No, a lot of this also is like, I've got this responsibility. I can't go back. They're gonna do it's not. I can't go back.
Yeah. I don't want to cause confusion and delay."
And there's also something in this that a lot of this, a much worse show would have portrayed Sir Topham Hatt always showing up and punishing them because that's why they always are feeling it, but it's them getting used to strict and responsibility.
Yeah, and when Sir Topham Hatt does show up, he's usually like
Mm-hmm.
Come on, man. I know you're better than this.
Yeah.
Sir Topham Hatt is never angry. He's just disappointed. And they're like, oh, that's worse.
But that's so much worse. You get that, right? Ugh. But I like this episode. It's also, as I said, it's not quite a rehash, but also it felt like they weren't sure where they were 100% going with kind of the next sort of thing. So like, let's do another Thomas episode.
Yeah, why not?
I'd put it solidly in the middle, either the middle end of Shiny Coat or the very top of Bust My Buffers.
I go top of Bust My
Bust my buffer.
Because I think
none of us can talk. Jesus.
While we add Annie and Clarabelle,
Bust my buffers. There we go.
While we add Annie and Clarabelle, we lose the sprinting conductor, and that is a negative.
It's nothing without him.
Oh, the fishing episode.
Thomas Goes Fishing / Thomas Goes Fishing. This is the same one in both.
It's the first time
Look, I love this episode.
This was my favorite episode as a kid.
I think
it has one of my favorite reveals where Sir Topham Hatt looks into his Thomas's. The whole plot of the episode is Thomas says, "I want to go fishing." Engines don't go fishing, dumbass. And then they need to get him water, so they get
Which
him
is
water.
such a cool shot of them, the bucket going down with the holes and coming up. I loved that as a kid.
I guess we should have said that for the rest of them, but it's especially good. The model work in the show is phenomenal.
Oh yeah, yeah. I love. I think some of the where it's really exemplified is the times when it's not necessarily the trains, where things are happening around the trains, like this with the bucket. I mean, look, I watched this episode so many times as a kid.
And it leads to my favorite read from Sir Topham. It's the narrator, but Sir Topham Hatt's best line where he just goes, "Driver, do you see fish?"
Inspector, he whispered, can you see fish?
And yes. This.
Then they cook the fish up while Thomas is mortal. It's hilarious.
Why do I feel so funny? It's like, well, you ate some bad fish, but
I don't eat.
Oh no! Well, we're gonna eat. We're gonna feast.
The thing about this episode, and the reason I'm gonna be pushing for it, even though I do like this episode, why I'm gonna be personally pushing for it for the bottom tier, is that. Throughout every episode that we've seen so far is that, Thomas has been naive. He's had that naivete. He's never been stupid. And in this episode, Thomas is just really stupid.
But fish, Mason. Fish.
No, it's being turned around on me. No.
I mean, again, I agree. When watching it back as an adult, this episode is funny, but it is kind of a lot of nothing. That being said, I am heavily nostalgia blinded by this episode.
As am I, but I'm okay putting it wherever. Like we said, none of these are bad. So
highest I'll go is bottom of Bust My Buffer.
Bottom of?
Fuck you. No, it's not.
Thomas is like, I'm okay with anything, and Mason's like, the very bottom. I thought I was okay.
Well, I thought I was. I didn't realize Mason was stupid. So, in all seriousness.
I like it. I'm okay with like right here, but I want it ahead of a lot of these ones because even though it is a lot, it's fluffy. It is a lot more charming than I think those other ones.
Okay, that's yeah.
I will accept that. I would personally have it higher because nostalgia's a drug.
It's a hell of a one at that.
I need to find.
I need to find some nostalgia drugs.
Sean won't understand this, but I need to find the edit. How will Mason like this episode better? When I can find that one edit where they take this ending and put it to Amazing Digital Circus music, where Thomas is just staring at the fish, like horrified.
Okay, that is pretty funny. That is really funny.
Speaking of nostalgia, if anyone remembers my tier list,
this is one Sean's nostalgic for. So go off, buddy. Thomas.
I love Terrence.
Or Trevor. The tractor.
Terrence. This is Terrence.
Yes, this
is Terrence. Trevor's the tractor I don't like as much, but I do like.
Terrence is the OG.
Terrence is the OG. He has the caterpillar only.
Which is one of the best reveals is where he's like, "Hi, I'm Terrence," and he's really nice, and Thomas looks at his wheels and he goes, "What the fuck are you?"
I don't understand. We don't like none of. You don't got the round wheels on the rails. We don't like your kind around here.
They should have named this episode "Thomas Learns to Not Be Racist."
Well, they are British, so.
But I think this is another kind of fluffier episode, and not just because of the snow.
Boo! You stink!
Although the snow aesthetic, I love when these early model Thomas episodes use snow.
Yeah, early.
The snow aesthetic is so good.
Model stuff doing snow is very nice. It's very pleasing.
It's very simple. It's the very simple of Thomas is rude to Terrence, and yet Terrence comes and saves the day. And Thomas learns, oh, maybe I shouldn't be rude to people. I might need their help.
Yep.
It's a very simple message. I really like it. I'm also completely blinded by my love of Terrence the Tractor.
And Terrence, he may not have been used that much, but he is an OG.
And he was never seen again.
So take a guess when he showed up next.
It's gotta
Season
be like,
14.
It's got to be like
19.
I was gonna say it's got to be like years later.
Yep. They were like, they introduced Trevor, and they were like, this is our first tractor. Are we forgetting something? Nah.
No, it's that 2.5 Men meme. Are we forgetting something? Couldn't have been important. Yeah, you're probably right. And Terrence was just out in the rain.
So I'm okay with putting it lower because, again, I understand the fluff, but I am nostalgia blinded to this one.
I would honestly, I was thinking middle of Paint.
That's fair. A lot of it, again, the snow aesthetic by itself has me putting it high. Again, it would be very high for me, so I'm gonna let you guys kind of dictate this one.
Middle of Paint.
Middle of Paint.
Middle
Yeah,
of
I'm
Paint.
fine with that.
Okay, so like right here.
Yep.
All right.
Bam.
All right. Thomas and Birdie's Great Race.
/ Thomas and Birdie. It's the debut of Birdie. That's basically all you need to know. It's Thomas and Birdie have a race. That's kind of the whole point.
This one, this is another really lighter episode, but it is so good.
Okay, I was like, be careful there. This is my favorite episode of the season.
I meant like kind of like content-wise, it's another kind of fluffier episode.
It is just them doing a race. There's not really a lesson learned other than I guess maybe Birdie is kind of a dick, but...
I mean, they're both dicks.
Yeah.
The lesson is, hey, maybe people shouldn't be dicks to each other.
But also, even the lesson isn't really learned because Thomas just wins.
Maybe we shouldn't be having dick measuring content.
But also, the idea of the car and the train racing was something that I then would reenact all the time with my toys. I love this episode.
This episode has my favorite ending line of the entire season, where the narrator says that they don't race that much anymore. It's like, but I like to think they still make some time for it, don't you?
They would like to have another race. I don't think they ever will. Do you?
And it's like, oh, that's so cute.
I love this one. Is just like, look. They work all the time. All these episodes about work responsibility, but sometimes they do have fun.
This is like this kind of Birdie is to Thomas what Knuckles is to Sonic.
I mean, in the first one, I called him Thomas's Shadow the Hedgehog. So.
Oh. Yeah.
I would have it very, very high again. Like again, I love this episode. I like just how much fun it is. It would be near the top for me. Very near the top.
I would say behind Henry getting bricked up.
I was going to put it at the end. Ahead of Edward and Gordon, but at the end of Shiny Code.
So I will accept that because I think all three of these, again, have bigger lessons and have more payoff than my favorite fun episode. So I will accept that. I will not fight it.
Yeah.
All right. Tenders and turntables.
The next couple don't have UK titles. It's just the same one in both. But yeah, tenders and turntables.
This is when the part of the three bigger engines go on strike.
Yeah, because they have to shunt their own coaches, and they're all being... Most of these episodes start with the engines being bitches. So...
We all like something. And I think it's also, while it's not said, you can almost read a little bit into it that there is kind of this jealousy boiling on the bigger engines as the littler engines have been doing stuff.
I mean, because Thomas has his own branch line now.
Yeah.
So they're probably pretty pissed.
And they're like, damn it, Edward is always good at stuff. He just is always there, succeeding. Thomas won a race.
They also think that shunting coaches is below them, so Gordon convinces them all to go on strike, which starts next episode, but they all have trouble, and they're like, oh, this Thomas is being a little bitch, so...
Do you think the engines... are they all part of the same union? Do they have separate unions?
The big engine union and the little engine union?
I do not think they have a union.
Yeah, it really doesn't feel like they have unions, but, Sir Topham Hatt, anti-union, goodness gracious.
No.
More like Sir Topham Hatt comes up to them. Do you all want to start a union? What's a union? Okay. And he just left. He's like, I'm not going to bother explaining it. But...
Oh, that'd be a funny episode.
Thomas and friends starting the union.
They're like, what is a union? Bye. What they don't know won't.
Yeah, Gordon comes up. So Topham Hatt, we want to start a union. Gordon, do you even know what that is? Damn it. And then he just drives away.
Topham Hatt's like, hey, what they don't know won't hurt me.
It's no skin off my back.
Yeah, for real. This is where we isn't this the same episode where we watch the engine spin around?
Yeah,
Yes.
That's pretty fun.
it's pretty fun. There's some really cool model work in this one. It also there's just not much to this episode.
Because it's a prologue.
It is a prologue
to what's
it really this one and the next one really go hand in hand. They are they are together. Actually, even a little bit further. It's a lot for because Thomas gets tired later on, and that's where we introduce Green Thomas. But I think I'd put this on the lower end of our rankings, but not. I don't know how low.
I wouldn't go bottom. I do think it's probably the weakest episode so far, but I don't think I'd go bottom.
Don't think it's confusion and delay.
No, I don't.
Oh
think
well.
So. What the goddamn?
Apparently the tier list thinks it is.
So we'll put it there. Bust my buffers.
Again, all of these episodes are good.
Oh yeah. Even if we had it at the top of confusion and delay, it still is a good episode. These are 4 tiers that we like of episodes that we like. So, but I think I would rank it right about there. All right, the conclusion to it, or no, that's the middle part of it.
Trouble in the Shed.
Trouble in the Shed / the debut of Percy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the debut. This is where we see just kind of how anti-union, quote unquote, that.
So he's like, oh, you're going on a strike? Here's a scab I have. But I also like that, you see all these engines covered up, and they just uncover one, and they're like, hey, and it's not going like, hey, in the future we're gonna uncover these ones too, right? Right.
Oh yeah,
right?
They'll be called in later.
Sir Topham comes back. I'm ready to get all those engines. Well, they were scrapped. What?
Well, we needed to build the God engine.
We needed to build Voltron as a train.
It adds Percy, so immediately I like this episode. We introduce the second most iconic character probably in Thomas.
We get
Green Thomas.
We get Percy, Edward, and Thomas forming a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Green, red, and blue.
No, green, blue, and blue.
Yeah, Edward.
Green, blue, and blue. My bad. I got
Red Edward does happen, but
I'm confused with.
Or is it Blue James? It's Blue James.
Blue James.
There we go. I was like, wait.
I got confused with James. My bad.
But yeah, it's a very fun episode. It mainly serves as a debut of Percy, and I think it works very well as that.
Yeah, it's a very solid episode. I think I put it towards the end of Shiny Coat of Paint, just for the debut of Percy. It's a fun little episode. It's enjoyable, but it's not anything spectacular.
I agree with that.
Percy runs away!
Because Percy gets scared, his driver is off his carriage, and he just starts going backwards.
This introduces one of my favorite character aspects of Percy, is that he's a scared little guy sometimes.
He's a scared little guy, and he's also kind of stupid.
Well, yeah,
he's a kid.
I always have pictured Percy as 4 or 5 years old. Percy is young.
Percy's the youngest. He's a little bit of a dumbass, but he's also being a kid.
Again, It might also be that I've always he's a kid and he's a chubby little boy, and I always loved Percy. He's just always been great.
Another just great delivery from the narrator when he's going backwards and he's like, I want to stop. He finally stops. Oh, I have stopped. Because he's so tired. He's delusional.
I like this episode. It's cute, but it's also not a lot.
I disagree personally.
Oh, okay.
I would actually put this pretty high for the ending, where Gordon comes up and he's finally learned respect. And he's
it's the payoff of those last two episodes.
Like, you know what? I like you, kid.
That's fair. Do we want to put top of Shiny Coat in that range, or do you want it a little lower, a little higher? What are you thinking?
I wouldn't put it above the Terrence episode personally.
Excellent. I love that when that happens.
I would, but I'd be outvoted. So I think right behind that.
Okay. Were you thinking just a little further with Shiny Coat, or are you putting it all the way in the next tier, Thomas?
I was just going to keep it in Shiny Coat, but I'm okay with where you guys want it.
Okay. That's fair. Again, I like keeping Terrence a little higher. There you are, my beautiful Terrence.
My sweet prince.
Henry's special goal.
/ Cole.
Just Cole, yeah.
Yeah, this is where it's revealed Henry has a small firebox.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of neat that it, without explicitly saying it, kind of takes on some disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Some disabilities, and also it gives a reason for maybe why Henry's was more vain. Because maybe even though maybe he didn't even disability, he inwardly he has these problems. So outwardly he's like, look how amazing I am, look how perfect I am. It gives a lot of context to Henry's character from before.
That is true. That's true.
It's also a very cool episode because even though Henry is kind of the main character, it's more focused on Sir Topham Hatt's investigation just to figure out what the hell's wrong with Henry.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's kind of cool.
It's also, you see a lot of how much Sir Topham Hatt is a caring father.
Yes.
Yeah, stern, but he's like, no, these engines are kind of my kids. Do you have actual kids? Well, somewhere.
Lady Hatt is handling that.
The thing is, he's a grandpa. Like, we've seen with his grandkids. It's like, so do his kids just not like him?
Children Hatt are handling that.
We heard about the time you bought another engine to make up for the engines on strike. We don't talk to you anymore.
You put a 4-year-old on. He's a 4-year-old train.
I was going to say, you put a 4-year-old in the workforce. He's a train.
Oh, my goodness.
That's what they do.
I do really like this episode. This is Henry gets some good ones in this season.
Yeah.
I wish we got more of an explanation as to what makes Welsh coal different.
I mean,
I always thought just coal was coal.
Well, they say it burns faster.
Mm-hmm. So because again, the slower burn scuffs up and clogs up his box. Technical train terms.
And nobody wants a clogged box. I regret saying that.
Everything you just said. So, fun fact, the smoke box is where their faces are on actual steam engines. And how they clean those is they take off the front and clean it out. So there's a possibility that the engine's faces can just detach.
Mason, after you destroyed my brain because you said the thing, where would you rank it?
Probably maybe top of Buffers.
Really? That low?
Okay, maybe a little higher. Maybe above. Is that the strike episode at the end of?
That's the paint. Yeah.
Yeah, I put it above that.
I was gonna have this in the top 4 or 5. So
wow.
I mean,
because I just think the message of this is really good.
I'm not losing sleep over this one. To be fair.
All right, where do you have it, Thomas?
I would have had a middle of both of you guys. So.
Okay. Do we consider it better than the Henry payoff episode?
I personally don't.
Okay, then I will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually,
then that's where we'll put it right there.
The Flying
Kipper.
The first big crash.
Yeah.
This is the first really big crash.
Okay, yeah, this is the one with the big crash. Yeah, with the fish truck.
Where they do some real good model work.
Mm-hmm. Yes, especially in the docks.
Yeah, first, this might be the most gorgeous episode. Just it being snowy at night with Henry's travels.
Mm-hmm.
This episode is absolutely gorgeous. And story-wise, there's not much.
Much.
It's mainly...
They're building up to, like, they're like, hey, we're going to show you really cool model work.
Yeah.
What's the story around it? It's not important. Really cool model work.
What I like is that Henry has learned his lesson, so he doesn't make a mistake.
Yeah.
It's the technicals. The technicals mess up, so he gets the brunt of it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is stuff that happens. And I kind of like that, despite these being trains with faces that talk, it's realistic like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's cool.
There's also an element of, because he's learned his lesson, he relies on his friends for help afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
That he has learned. Like, there's some really good stuff in this episode. So, like, I really do like this episode. It is more the technical stuff than anything else, but it's a solid episode.
Mm-hmm. Personally, this is me talking, I would put it top tier because I think it's a technical masterpiece.
I was thinking either that or near the top of Shiny Coat of Paint because of the technical stuff.
Yeah, I'd put it in behind Henry, the Henry episode on Release Engine. Or no, not.
I said if on the top tier, I'd put it at the end because it's more for technical than story points, but I would put it on the end of it. If we go down, I think it'd be the top of Shiny Coat of Paint.
Okay, end of Useful Engine.
End of Useful Engine. I think that's, again, because this is just such a huge technical achievement that they've done this season. Of a season full of really good technical model work, they pull this off near the end of the season.
Yeah. And near the end of the season, there's a couple more after where we cut it off, but
yes. But the first 20 is kind of the bookmark of the first real arc.
Yeah.
There are some interesting stuff that continue on from it, but like the first 20 really are like that conclusion on the first bit.
Mm-hmm.
Whistles and
wheezes.
Whistles and sneezes.
Whistles and sneezes.
I was just looking at it and I forgot it.
My man. I put these damn things on and nobody can read it.
Well, we all know from all of the Let's Plays, I can't read half the time, so...
And I'm not in a position where I can read the damn thing.
And I'm the furthest away out of all three of us, so, I'm...
This was a horrible idea.
We have made a mistake. Whistles and sneezes.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Like, this is the most just fine episode of all of them. Don't get me wrong, it's fun, but all that happens is Gordon's whistle messes up, and Henry sneezes on some boys.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's really not a whole lot.
I brought up the smoke box thing earlier. How, if you...
Yeah,
but if you don't want to see it as that, and just, their faces don't come off, this could be seen as a funny gag based on that.
Mm-hmm.
Where, because they don't have a smoke box, there's all this buildup, so that sneeze is all in.
Is the buildup, yeah.
All the smoke.
That would be, because again, a train wouldn't sneeze, but, or wouldn't get sick, so this is kind of why it's...
Yeah, and plus, if they don't have smoke boxes, you can't remove all the soot, so it makes sense that that's the way they do it. Which I like better than them taking the fucking face off.
This really is the most just their episode, though, of this first 20.
And again, it's not bad, but...
As we said, all 20 episodes are good.
I think is this the one we put at the bottom?
This is the bottom.
Okay.
I was like, I think we're all kind of like hedging our bets here, like... Do you all agree? Do we?
I think this is the bottom.
It is the bottom one.
Again, it's cute, it's fun, but there's in a season full of technical achievements and cool arcs, this is just kind of fun.
Yeah, I was genuinely wondering. I was like, are we actually going to get through an entire tier list without putting one at the bottom for I think the first time?
It's the first time that one counted because. I think the only other time we did it, the recording fucked up.
But
yeah,
this is fun. I like this ranking. Again, we always would have personally different rankings of things, but I think we've come together and I think we built a pretty good ranking of these first 20 episodes. I know it's not technically season 1, but
it's close.
But yeah.
The only thing is, I wish we included the Toby episode, but it's way too late to say that.
Yep. Toby is awesome. So we'll just end this by saying, "Yay, Toby!" Here's a quick little 10-second Toby.
God damn you!
That was wonderful. Thank you for doing that, future Sean or future Thomas.
It was me.
What do you guys think? Do you like our rankings? Do you think we put some out of order? What is your favorite episode? Let us know. Comment below.
See, here's a fun little thing. Comment if you would like to see this for future seasons of Thomas.
Yeah. Or other tier list ideas.
Or other tier lists of seasons of shows.
Or anything you'd like to hear us talk about Thomas the Tank Engine. It doesn't take much to be like, hey, do this. And we're like, Thomas the Tank Engine? Yes.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Oh boy. But we'd love to hear from you. So comment below and click that like button because, we love you. And we'll be back with something more next time.